All right, so we are going to have a couple options to use the wall. So if you're into legs up the wall, legs up a chair, you might just kind of organize yourself near a wall or have those particular props handy or close by. And then I've got a bolster, 3 or 4 blankets will probably be good, and blocks tonight. If you like to practice with an eye pillow or something soft for your, like a sleep mask or towel or something for your eyes, that can be lovely as well. And we're just gonna start really simply supported Shavasana. So if you'd like to cover your mat with a blanket, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to. I like to practice that way, so I'll leave it up to you. And then supported shava. So that could be on your back. If traditional shavasana, maybe with support behind the knees with this bolster would serve you well to start our practice. Maybe a pillow or a blanket to prop your head. I'm just using a tri-folded blanket for that, but you could of course incorporate pillows and things. And we'll recline to either rest and begin our practice like that, or you could always rest on your side, take like a sideline shava or a belly down shavasana. So there's lots of ways to customize this so that you get the most out of the restoration that we're after. And so as you come to drop, decide here sort of where to put your limbs. So legs long with support feels okay. You could let the legs just go and let them flop. I like hands on belly, but you could go, out to the sides, up overhead. Again, whatever feels best. Take the chin, if you're on your back, and just gently tuck it towards the front of your throat so you ensure that the back of your neck is nice and lengthy. And we'll start to settle into stillness. So as you're ready to embrace the not doing, non-doing, quieting the body so we can quiet breath and mind. And starting that process when you're ready. So I think the hardest thing about restorative is that you're used to doing a lot. It can be hard to kind of sit still, be still. And I don't say a whole lot other than in our intro. So it really is quiet. So that can be a really big challenge. The second thing I think is getting yourself to the point where your props are just right. You've got your body just so, and in a way that feels comfortable and enjoyable. So if at any point those two things are not checking out, you might adjust. Let's take a few minutes here to just feel the body. And see if there's any places maybe initially here that you would like to or need to soften. So as you continue checking in with the physical body, just like we do in other practices, kind of starting from a passive posture, checking in. See if you can let go of any unnecessary holding or muscular effort, any gripping or tension that you can just completely let go, especially around the jaw, the teeth, the tongue, maybe other places that you know about yourself where you hold tension. And as you're ready to go a little deeper, you might start to notice and put some emphasis on your breath. Matching the intention of our practice, matching the intention, what we sort of hope for in the physical body with this style is a breath that feels free of tension, a breath that feels comfortable, enjoyable. We have a little bit of pranayama work kind of mixed into a couple of shapes today, so you'll have the invitation to work with that if you would like to. And some days I think that's helpful, especially if you're feeling really chatty, really fidgety. It gives us a point of focus, of presence. So for now, just work with the natural breath that you've got. Try to keep the awareness just loosely on inhale and exhale. For your last couple of minutes here in our first shape, taking the awareness perhaps a little deeper and checking out the emotional, mental, maybe state of things, the mood, state of your nervous system. And being kind to yourself as you simply just observe and see perhaps how you're feeling. And continue to stay soft as you potentially check that realm out for a few more moments here. So after maybe your next rep cycle, you can start to bring a little movement into your body. And if you're not on your back, would invite you to be supine. And we'll make a really simple transition from the back, just with the legs, into the Baddha Konasana. So if you have a bolster already kind of under your thighs, you could keep sort of that wide diamond shape and create the butterfly over the bolster, soles of feet together, knees wide, lots of space between groin and heels. Been kind of playing with this elevated version of the Baddha Konasana on the bolster itself, if you have one. So it does intensify a little bit or a lot of it, depending on your range of motion. So you're welcome to give it a whirl, soles of feet together, knees wide, regardless. And if either of those two options is not ideal, then you've got your blocks. You can get rid of the bolster if you prefer the block wedges, kind of wedge those in under the outer knees or thighs. You could also use blankets. And you're in charge, of course, of how sort of deep the heels towards the inner upper thigh groin area. So again, we want to be able to rest here. So if you have a lot of sensation and it's really distracting, see if you could sort of bring in more support so that you can sustainably rest here. Elongate a little bit through the crown of the head. Set your arms in a position that serves you well. And we'll drop here for several minutes. And stay nice and soft here. Let's come back to the breath. And as you're ready to carefully exit your butterfly legs, you can use your hands to help. You can either lengthen your legs or bend your knees and let your knees knock together for a few breaths, whatever feels like a good counter pose or neutral shape. Just pause in that position for a moment. And then just carefully bend your knees. If you got props under the knees or things in the way, you can just kind of carefully slide them out. And we'll transition through a side and up, but try to keep all of your movements pretty slow and take your time. And when you're up, you can make a blanket roll for our next shape. So if you've got a blanket handy, you'll open it to, it's like a traditional yoga blanket that covers the length of your mat. You'll just fold it in half once, and then you can roll it up towards the non-fringe side so that you've got this nice tube. And then we will send the left side down onto that. So we're moving into a sideline shabbat, but I've got some breath invitations for you here. So as you sort of settle into the left side, if you know that your knees don't like to be stacked together, you could prep a blanket for some potential padding, kind of have that close by, or if you're cold and you want to cover up on your side, another blanket might be useful for that. And then depending on head and neck, if you have an actual pillow, you could use a pillow. Otherwise, I just use a block plus a blanket so that I can rest the left side of my head. Now, coming down onto this blanket roll can start in the armpit chest. So there's some potential feedback pretty high up in the armpit chest. My left arm is kind of between my blanket roll and my block blanket pillow situation. And you can just drop right in and just close your eyes and start to rest here. Or if you'd like a little bit of massaging, depending on how sensitive your side waists are, you might entertain a little roll towards your back. So like the left shoulder blade potentially kind of digs into your blanket, like you were gonna twist to the right, but you don't. And then you kind of roll back and kind of dig around. Depending on how high you are, you might, have breast tissue in the way. So just be mindful. So we'll stay sort of with this first setting, unless it's like painful. Of course, if it's painful, get out of there. Or unroll your blanket so it's not quite so thick. And we'll drop eventually in this high armpit chest to sort of feel, or invite you to feel the left side breath potential. And so as you inhale, you might take note of what happens to the left side of your ribs, your left lung against your blanket. And then when you exhale, what happens for that same spot as you contract or sort of let the breath go. So side waist breath, specifically this left side for starters. You're feeling pretty chatty, the brain, lots going on, or you're feeling really fidgety, whatever it may be, this pranayama breath work on the left side can perhaps be your tether to presence. If you're really tired and you fall asleep here, also great. Let's rest for a couple minutes. Stay soft on your side here and take a few more breaths. So we'll move this into a twist. So you've got some options. If you'd like a supine twist on this blanket roll, you can roll to your right any amount, like you were trying to get this nice upper back lift with your blanket roll. And this right arm, depending on your shoulder, you might, as you open up to the ceiling, might find that a block or some sort of lift under that right shoulder maybe is useful, or you kind of drape the arm loose overhead, whatever you would like. So that's option one. Option two is the other direction. So a twist towards the floor. And in this case, if you're doing that option, I like to pick up my torso, my head for a second, kind of scoot this blanket roll down, partly because breast tissue and partly because I want the feedback of the blanket roll and the lowest ribs for some pranayama emphasis there. So you can decide again if you prefer a supine twist. In this case, belly to the right. You can let your head roll to the right, or taking some version of a belly down twist with or without. Both options, of course, can occur with or without that blanket roll, depending on what you prefer. So regardless, we've got some rotation happening, and that can make it kind of tricky to breathe. So you feel like you're really compressed in your spine, you might kind of lengthen out a little bit through the crown, take your knees a little further from you. And if that doesn't help, or you find that you need to change to the other twist, take care of yourself here. Last thing I'll say is if you have the blanket roll, or even if you don't and you have the floor, there's some feedback potential for supine twisters in the upper back, upper lungs, potentially against the floor or your blanket roll. And those of us twisting towards the belly or towards the floor, if you moved your blanket roll down, you might have more emphasis in your lowest ribs and the sort of navel area. All right, let's rest. Stay nice and soft in your twist here and take a few more breaths. So depending on how you were twisting, you might have a different exit. So just unwind yourself. And you can take some sort of neutral shape. So you can either rest back on your side, you could roll to your back, you could sit for a moment. So just something where there's no rotation, the spine is relatively neutral. You can use these opportunities to also move and shift if you need some stretching out or little movements to help you return. And then the side on the right will be next. So you can make your way to your right side. Right side lying Shavasana is how we'll start. So you liked that sort of pillow situation with the block and the blanket. Bring that back in unless you kept it for the twist. And then the blanket roll, probably know what you need there. So if you kind of unrolled it some for that first side, you might do that here. And if it's not too sensitive and it works okay, we'll drape the right upper armpit, chest, right outer ribs into that blanket roll. So the right arm will be kind of between that and your pillow. If you want to prop something between your left knee on top of your right knee, you can do that. You can cover up. And right side of the head can rest. If you want to drop right away, you can. If you want to do a little digging around, you can kind of roll to the left in this case. Just kind of digging a little bit with that blanket roll into the right upper back. And you might decide that you really like that or you don't. And we'll embrace that right side lung emphasis when you're ready. So feeling the inhale breath expand, perhaps against the floor if you're not using the blanket roll or against the roll itself. And some exhalation or contractile breath as you feel sort of the movement of the body away from the prop back towards midline. All right, sideline Shava on the right. Close your eyes. And stay soft on your right side. And take a few more breaths. So as you're ready to move into your twist, you can decide kind of when to ease into that. If you're going for more of a supine twist, you can start to roll your head, chest, belly to the ceiling and to the left, with or without that blanket roll. So it does potentially make it more intense with it. So be mindful. Left arm, lots of options. If you've got blocks, you want to prop kind of under the shoulder, you could bring that in. Loose arm overhead, depending on your range. Or keep your left hand kind of on your ribs or your belly. You can let the head roll to the left if you want. Other option is to twist towards the belly, and you might do some maneuvering of the blanket roll down if you want to explore that low belly sensation with the blanket. So same options as before. And if you need to adjust the support for your head, of course you can do that. I got rid of my block and just folded my blanket. But we've got some rotation again here, so check it out. Take a few breaths before you really commit. Make sure you're comfortable, well supported. And if you've got some feedback from the low belly with that blanket roll and the breath, or maybe it's the upper back and the breath, see if you can really smooth that out. And we'll rest here. Stay nice and soft here. And take a few final breaths. And as you're ready to unwind, come out of your twist. And you can pause on your side, you can rest on your back. Just find kind of a neutral shape. Pause for a moment. And eventually we'll make our way up. So ease your way to the side and up slowly. And if you're at or near a wall, this is where we'll move into legs up the wall or legs up a couch or chair. If you don't have any of that stuff nearby, you could build up a bolster, a couple of blankets to kind of toss your legs over. So there's some elevation if you'd like. Otherwise, you can prop the back of your pelvis. I'm gonna just use a flat blanket today. So if you'd like to have a little lift for the back of the pelvis at the wall, you could prepare that. And then depending on your preference for weighting the feet, you might take a second blanket with you and have it close by. If you'd like to try to get a blanket on your feet once you're in. You're welcome to utilize other props as well if you would like. And then if you're going to the wall, you can kind of roll in from your side. So butt to wall, and then you'll roll through the side and then to your back. And if your hamstrings are really tight, you might opt for a little scoot headward or away from the wall so that you don't have a lot of intense sensation going on. Option 2, add that blanket over the feet. I know that's kind of hard to do on your own, or at least it is for me, but it is lovely. You like the added weight. And your arms can rest wherever. So out to the sides, up overhead. You might toss your eye pillow or sleep mask on here. Make sure that you're comfortable. Feel well supported and drop in when you're ready. And stay nice and soft where you are. And come back to your breath. And if you're at the wall, you can make a slow transition to like a squat at the wall. And just maybe pause there as you bring the feet down. If you've got your legs on something else, just kind of carefully transition. We're going to make our way up to sit. So just go slow. And if you have the wall, you'll set up for meditation if you want at the wall. So you could sit on your bolster, opt for just sitting right on this flat blanket and kind of backing the pelvis up to the wall. There's a natural curve to your lumbar that will obviously not touch the wall, but see if you can kind of stack up the bones if you'd like to sort of entertain meditation at the wall, and give a little hug of your shoulder blades together. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. And just rest your hands on your legs. And take note of where you make contact with the floor, so root down through the sitting bones. Get light through the sides of the waist. And just softly allow for the wall to sort of hold support for your spine as we sit here. And the invitation is to simply just watch your breath. Depending on your anatomy and your preference, you may or may not experience some feedback of breath in the back of the body against the wall. And so as you inhale, expanding front body, side body, back body. And as you exhale, contracting, bringing breath back to midline and then up and out. Soft jaw, soft eyes. And if there's any anxiety about the breath, any anxiety about the breath at the wall, or quite literally any other anxiety, see if you can just sort of take a normal breath, take care of yourself so that this experience here can be enjoyable. And if the mind gets distracted, see if you can give it a little nudge back to your breath. And stay nice and soft here for another minute or so. And is it possible to feel the breath 360 degrees? So upper chest, side waist, mid chest, upper back, mid back, belly. Let's take a few final breaths. So after your next exhale, move a little bit through the fingers and we'll transition to open eyes and Shavasana. So if you'd like to rest on your back, you can set up a supported Shavasana supine. If you prefer a belly down Shavasana, you could opt for that. Really, any shape that you want to rest in to close out your practice is fine with me. I'm going to start how we began with a bolster behind the knees and cover up this time. So draping a blanket over the body. I've got a little support for my head. You're welcome to copy that or set up your own final shape. But make it cozy. Make sure you're comfortable, well supported. Continue to enjoy stillness, quiet as we rest here. And so if you'd like to continue resting, please feel free to do so. If you're ready to come back, you can start to put some emphasis on the breath, maybe deepen and widen through the breath. And you can follow that with some tiny moves. So maybe fingers and toes, and gradually allowing your movements to get bigger, taking any additional movements as you transition to a seat. But go slow. So like you're moving through really thick mud, coming through the side. I encourage you to pause in fetal position and take a breath or two there with eyes soft, head and neck heavy. And eventually a seat, but again, just take your time. And coming up to sit in a way that serves you well. You can prop your seat if you'd like. And we'll close our practice together here. So lengthen up through the spine. Maintain that soft set of eyes, soft jaw. And enjoy, luxuriate some here in the effects of your work. And checking in with how you feel post practice. And meet hands at heart center if you would like to. And so may our practice of restorative yoga help us to really prioritize stillness and quiet and rest, not just here on the mat, but may that be so off the mat as well. Thank you for joining Yogis. Namaste. Thank you all so very much. It's good to see all of you with me. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody on the recording. Sleep well when the time comes. Take care, guys. See you later.